Hi students, welcome back to yet another video lesson on business regulation. Today we are going to discuss about a contract of bailment. In our last video we introduced a new term, that is a special contract. At that time I mentioned the contract of bailment and pledge. So contract of bailment and pledge are special type of contract. This was explained under section 148 to 181 of Contract Act 1872. So in this video we are mainly concentrated on contract of bailment. Contract of pledge we can discuss in our next video class. So what is bailment? The word bailment is derived from the French word bailer, which means to deliver. So it is a contract from delivery. Bailment is a contract from delivery. In other words, bailment is a voluntary change of possession of goods or any other belongings from one person to another for some purpose. So in bailment, the ownership of good is with one person and the possession is with another person. So the core aspect behind bailment is goods or any other belongings which was owned by one person and which is used by another person. Now we can discuss the definition of bailment. According to section 148 of the Indian Contract Act, a bailment is the delivery of goods by one person to another for some purpose upon a contract that they shall, when the purpose is accomplished, be returned or otherwise disposed of according to the direction of the person delivering them. So, section 148 explains the concept of bailment. According to this session, bailment is a type of contract. In that contract, delivery of good by one person to another from some purpose, and after that purpose is accomplished, that goods is returned to the real owner. Now, the person who is delivering the good is called the bailer, and the person to whom they are delivered is called the bailee. So, bailer and bailee are the two persons which are included in the contract of bailment. Once again, the person who delivered the good is called the bailer, and the person to whom they are delivered is called the bailee. Now we can discuss the essential features of bailment. So the essential features are delivery of possession, delivery of goods should be upon a contract, delivery of goods must be for a specific purpose, return of the same goods, ownership, goods. So we can discuss each feature in detail. First one is delivery of the possession. The first unique feature of bailment is that the bailer must transfer his possession of goods to the bailee. Goods should be put in the legal possession of bailee. So, for a valid bailment, there must be a delivery of the possession from one party to another. Now, the next feature is delivery of goods should be upon a contract. Bailment arises from express or implied contract. The relation of bailer and bailee is the creation of a contract. Technically, bailment is the act of delivering goods to the bailee, and it may be created even without a written agreement. Now the next feature is delivery of goods must be for a specific purpose. In bailment, the goods are delivered for some purpose which must be specific and temporary. The purpose of delivery may be safe custody, repair, transportation, use, creation of utility, etc. Where goods are delivered without any purpose or by mistake to a person, there is no bailment. So, a valid bailment, there must be a specific purpose behind that bailment. Now, the next feature is return of the same goods. Return of goods which were given by the bailer to the bailee is one of the essential feature of bailment. The bailee is under a duty to return the goods when the purpose is completed or otherwise disposed of according to the direction of the bailer. There is no contract of bailment if the goods are not returned but its value has to be paid. So, for a valid bailment, return of the same good must be needed. And now the next feature is ownership. In bailment, ownership remains with the person who delivered the goods. That is, bailment, there is transfer of possession but not transfer of ownership. The title of good is not transferred to the bailee. It is vested in the hands of the bailer. Now the next feature is goods. Bailment is concerned with only movable goods which is defined in the Sale of Goods Act. According to this act, goods means every kind of movable property other than auctionable claims and money. Here auctionable claims means claims to be settled by the court. So other than auctionable claims and money, all movable property is known as goods. So we can say that we cannot make a bailment based on land and building, because land and buildings are immovable property. We cannot make a bailment based on that immovable property. So these are all about the essential features of bailment. Once again, the essential features of bailment are delivery of goods, specific purpose, return of the same goods, contract, ownership and goods. Now moving to the next session, that is types of bailment or kinds of bailment. Bailment may be classified on the basis of reward and on the basis of benefit. So first we can discuss bailment on the basis of reward. There are two types of bailment on the basis of reward. They are gratuitous bailment and non-gratuitous bailment. So first we can discuss what is gratuitous bailment. A gratuitous bailment is one where no consideration or remuneration passes between the bailer and bailee. In this case, the bailee keeps the goods for the bailer without any charge or reward. For example, lending of a scooter to a friend or borrowing some books from friend. In these two cases, there is no remuneration or no consideration between the bailer and bailee. So such a type of bailment is known as gratuitous bailment. Now the next one is non-gratuitous bailment. Non-gratuitous bailment is a type of bailment in which some consideration passes between the parties. So it is just opposite of gratuitous bailment. It is also known as bailment for reward, because in this bailment there is some reward is accepted for the bailment. For example, motor car let out for hire, goods given to a carrier for carriage at a price, articles given for a charge. So in all these cases there is some kind of remuneration or consideration is there. So such type of bailment is known as non-gratuitous bailment. Once again, non-gratuitous bailment is also known as bailment for reward. Now the next type is bailment based on the benefit received. So based on the benefit received, bailment may be bailment for the exclusive benefit of the bailer, bailment for the exclusive benefit of the bailee, bailment for the mutual benefit of both the bailer and bailee. So the first one is bailment for the exclusive benefit of the bailer. It is the bailment where the goods are delivered by the bailer to the bailee only for the benefit of the bailer himself, and the bailee does not derive any benefit from it. It may be in the case of safe custody, where goods are delivered to a neighbor or someone else for safe custody without any charge. For example, X is going out of station. He leaves his valuable goods with his neighbor for safety. Here X alone is being benefited by the bailment. So such type of bailment is known as bailment for the exclusive benefit of the bailer. Here bailer only get the benefit, not the bailee. Now the next type is bailment for the exclusive benefit of the bailee. It is a bailment where the goods are delivered by the bailer to the bailee only for the exclusive benefit of the bailee. It may be in the case of delivery of things to someone else for his use without any charge. For example, lending a scooter to a relative for some time without any charge. Here benefit is goes only for bailee, not bailer. So such type of bailment is known as bailment for the exclusive benefit of the bailee. Now the last one in this category is bailment for the mutual benefit of both the bailer and bailee. It is the bailment where goods are delivered by the bailer to the bailee for the mutual benefit of both of them. In this case, a delivery of goods is done with some consideration. For example, giving a cloth to a tailor for stitching a shirt. Here tailor and that opposite person also get benefit. Another example is giving a scooter for repair. Here also both the party get benefited. So that type of bailment is known as bailment for the mutual benefit of both the bailer and bailee. These are all about types of bailment. So once again, bailment may be broadly classified into two types. They are on the basis of reward and on the basis of benefit. On the basis of reward, bailment may be gratuitous bailment and non-gratuitous bailment. On the basis of benefit, bailment may be three types. They are bailment for the exclusive benefit of the bailer, bailment for the exclusive benefit of bailee, bailment for the mutual benefit of bailer and bailee. Now the next topic for discussion is duties of bailer. A bailer has so many duties. So the duties of the bailer are duty to disclose faults in goods bailed, duty to bear expenses, duty to indemnify the bailee due to lack of a title to goods bailed, duty to indemnify bailee for excess loss, duty to bear normal risks, duty to receive back the goods bailed. So the first duty of a bailer is duty to disclose faults in goods bailed. In the case of gratuitous bailment, the bailer must disclose all the known faults to the bailee, and if he does not make such a disclosure, he is responsible for the damage arising to the bailee directly from such faults. In the case of bailment for reward or non-gratuitous bailment, the bailer is responsible irrespective of the knowledge of the faults in the goods bailed. So this is the first duty of the bailer. Now the next one is duty to bear expenses. In the case of gratuitous bailment, it is the duty of the bailer to bear the expenses of the bailment. On the other hand, in the case of non-gratuitous bailment, it is the duty of the bailer to bear extraordinary expenses incurred by the bailee in relation to the goods bailed. So only extraordinary expenses is bailed in the case of non-gratuitous bailment. Now the next duty is duty to indemnify the bailee due to lack of title to the goods bailed. Well, the title of the bailer to the goods is defective, and as a result the bailee suffer a loss. The bailer is responsible to indemnify the bailee for such loss. Once again, the title of the bailer to the goods is defective, and as a result of that the bailee suffer a loss. Then the bailer is responsible for indemnifying the bailee to such loss. Now the next duty is duty to indemnify bailee for excess loss. If the bailment is gratuitous and is made for a specified time or purpose, but the bailer compel the return of goods before such time or purpose, then the bailer must indemnify the bailee for any loss which exceed the benefit actually derived by the bailee. So this is also one of the important duty which is performed by the bailer. Now the next one is duty to bear normal risks. It is the duty of the bailer to bear the risk of normal loss. Now the next one is duty to receive back the goods bailed. The bailer has the duty to take back his goods after the expiry of the time or the fulfillment of the purpose for which the goods was bailed. In case the bailer failed to claim back the goods, it is his responsibility to compensate the bailee for the expenses incurred because of the bailer's delay. Now we can discuss what are the duties or liabilities of a bailee. Bailee also has certain duties. So the duties are take reasonable care of goods, not to make unauthorized use of goods, not to mix goods with his own goods, duty to return goods, returning any profit or accretion received, not to set up any adverse title. So the first duty is to take care of the goods. It is the duty of the bailee to take care of the goods. The bailee is bound by the contract of bailment to return the goods when the purpose of bailment is fulfilled. That means if the bailment is completed, bailee has the duty to return the goods to the bailer. So he must take care of the goods that is bailed. He must take care of the goods while they are in his possession. Measures and cares must be given for protecting that goods. These measures and cares depends upon the nature, quality, quantity and value of the goods. If the value of the goods is very high or that goods is very precious one, then the care must be very high. But in certain situation, bailey is not liable for protecting that goods. That means some events are occurred that event is beyond the control of the bailey. For example, if the goods is stolen or goods is lost due to the negligence of the servant. In these two cases, bailey is not liable because that incident is not or beyond the control of the bailey. Now the next duty is not to mix the bailor's goods with his own goods. The bailey must not mix the goods of the bailor with his own goods, but must keep them separate from his own goods. But if the bailey mix their goods with his own goods, then there is three situations are there. So the situations are mixture with the bailor's consent, mixture without consent but goods are separable, mixture without consent but cannot be separated. So in this three situation, rules are different. So the first situation is mixture with the bailor consent. If the bailey mixes the goods with the consent of the bailor, both the bailor and the bailey shall have proportionate interest in the mixture of that goods. So this is the first case, mixture with the bailor consent. Here the consent of bailor and bailey is there. Now the next one is mixture without consent but goods are separable. If the bailey mixes the goods of the bailor with his own goods without the consent of the bailor, and the goods can be separated or divided, then in that situation the bailey is bound to bear the expenses of separation or division as well as any damage arising from the mixture. Now the last one is mixture without consent but cannot be separated. If the bailey mixes the goods of the bailor with his own goods without the consent of the bailor, and in such that situation the goods is not separable also. So in that situation the bailey is liable to compensate the bailor for the loss of goods occurred. Now the next duty is duty to return the goods. It is the duty of the bailey to return or deliver the goods bailed according to the bailor's direction without demand as soon as the time for which they were bailed has expired or the purpose for which they were bailed has been accomplished. So if the purpose of bailment is completed or the expiry period is completed, it is the duty of the bailey to return that goods. If the bailey failed to return the goods in time, he is responsible to the bailor for any loss, destruction or deterioration of the goods from that time. Now the next duty is duty not to use bailed goods in an unauthorized manner. Bailey must use the goods bailed according to the condition of the bailment or the direction of the bailor. According to section 154, if the bailey makes unauthorized use of the goods bailed, that is inconsistent with the terms of bailment, he is responsible for all damages to the goods and must pay compensation to the bailor. It is to be noted that the bailey will be liable for such damage even if he was not negligent in making such unauthorized use. So it is the duty of the bailey not to make unauthorized use of the goods bailed. If he do such, he must be punishable. Okay. Now the next duty is duty to return any accretion of the goods or any benefits which is received. According to section 163 of the Contract Act, in the absence of any contract, the bailey is bound to deliver to the bailor or according to his direction any increase of profit which may have accrued from the goods bailed. In other words, the bailey must return the bailor any increase of profit which has received from the goods bailed. Now the next duty is not to set up an adverse title. The bailey shall not hold the goods for the bailor on behalf of him as per section 117 of the Evidence Act 1872. The bailey cannot deny the rights of the bailor to have the goods and receive them back. It is the duty of the bailey not to set up an adverse title. So these are all about duties of bailey or liabilities of bailey. Now moving to the next topic, that is rights of bailor. A bailor has some rights. So the rights are enforcement of rights, right to claim damages, right to terminate the contract, restoration of goods lent gratuitously, right to claim compensation, right to get back the goods on accomplishment of purpose, to claim increase of profit from the goods. So enforcement of rights, this is the first right. There are certain duties of the bailey. If he neglect them, the bailor has the right to enforce by suit all the liabilities or duties of the bailey. Now the next right is right to claim damages. The bailor has the inherent right to claim for damages for any loss that might have been caused to the goods bailed due to the negligence of the bailey. If any damage is occurred due to the negligence of the bailey, bailor has the right to claim damages. Now the next right is right to terminate the contract. The bailor can terminate the bailment if the bailey does, with regards to the goods bailed, any act which is inconsistent with the terms of the bailment. If the bailey do any unauthorized act which is inconsistent with the terms of the bailment, then the bailor has the right to terminate that contract. Now the next right is restoration of goods lent gratuitously. When the goods are lent gratuitously or the goods are lent without reward, the bailor can demand return of goods at any time that he wish, even though the goods were bailed for a specific time or purpose. If such a return of goods caused any loss to the bailey, it is the duty of the bailor to compensate the bailey for such losses. So we can say that bailor has the right to restore the goods. Now the next right is right to claim compensation. The bailor has a right to claim compensation from the bailey if any damages is done to the goods by the bailey. Now the next right is right to get back the goods bailed on expiry of time or accomplishment of the purpose. On expiry of time or accomplishment of the purpose, the bailor has the right to get back the goods bailed. Now the next right is to claim increase of profit from the goods. It is the right of the bailor to claim increase of profit from the goods by the bailment. Any increase or profit which may have acquired from the goods due to the bailment, it must be given to the bailor also. So these are all about the rights of the bailor. Now we can discuss the rights of bailor and bailey against a third party. Either bailor or bailey can take action against the third party against some wrongful circumstances. So the rights of the bailor and bailey against the third parties are, first case is sue against a wrongdoer. When a third party wrongfully do something and it causes some loss or injury to the bailor and bailey, then they have the right to sue against that wrongdoer. Then next is apportionment of relief or compensation obtained. As per section 181 of the Contract Act, whatever is obtained by way of relief or compensation in any such suit is the apportionment as between the bailor and bailey according to the respective interest. So, whatever received by way of relief or compensation in any suit against wrongdoer, proportionate share must be given to the bailor and bailey as per respective interest. Now, we can discuss rights of the bailey. The duties of the bailor are the rights of the bailey and vice versa. So, the rights of the bailey are enforcement of right, deliver the goods to any one of the joint bailor, to claim damages, right to be indemnified, to claim necessary expenses, to recover loss due to defective title of the bailor, to file a suit to decide the title of the goods bailed, right of particular lien, right of general lien. So the first one is enforcement of right. The bailey can by suit enforce the duties of the bailor. So it is the first right of the bailey. Now the next one is delivery of the goods to any one of the joint bailor. According to section 165 of the Contract Act, If the goods are bailed by more than one person, then in the absence of any contract to the contrary, the bailee has a right to deliver back the goods to any one of the joint bailers without the consent of the all parties. Then the next right is to claim damages. If the bailer has bailed the goods without disclosing the defective aspect of that good, and the bailee has suffered some loss due to such defect, then the bailee has the right to claim damages for that. And now the next right is right to be indemnified. If the bailer demand returns of the goods before the specified time and the loss of the bailee occurred in such a situation is greater than the benefit actually derived from that bailment, then the bailee has the right to indemnify that loss. The next right is to claim necessary expenses. When the terms of bailment do not provide any remuneration to the bailee for work done by him, he is liable to recover from the bailer all necessary expenses incurred by him for bailment. In case of gratuitous bailment, a bailee has the right to recover from the bailer all expenses incurred by him over and above the benefit derived by him. Now the next right is to recover loss due to defective title of the bailer. A bailee has a right to recover from the bailer any loss suffered by him due to the defective entitlement of the bailer on goods bailed. Next right is to file a suit to decide the title of the goods bailed. If a person other than the bailer claims the goods from the bailee, he may apply to the court to stop the delivery of the goods to the bailer and to decide the title of the goods. Now the next right is right of particular lien. When the goods have been bailed for a particular purpose and the bailee performed that bailment and he incurred so many expenses regarding labor and skill for performing that bailment, then he has the right to retain such goods until he receive remuneration. This is the right of particular lien. Now the next and last one is right of general lien. This right is available to a bailee in respect of any payment lawfully due to him. So these are all about rights of the bailee. Now the next topic for discussion is lien. Lien is explained under section 170 to 171 of the Indian Contract Act. Lien is a kind of right which is given to one person to retain some goods or anything which is in his possession belonging to another until some debt or claim is paid. In other words, lien is a right which is given to a particular person to retain some goods with him, but actually that good is not but actually the owner of that good is not that person, but he has the right to retain that goods until some debt or claim is paid. Now we can discuss the essential features of a valid lien. So the first feature is possession of goods. The possession of goods is very important for the person claiming the lien. So there must be a possession of goods. Now the next one is lawful nature. The possession must be of lawful nature, that it must not be obtained by way of coercion, misrepresentation or fraud. So the possession must be lawful. Now the next one is continuous possession. The possession must be of a continuous possession of goods of the person claiming lien. Now next feature is right of defense but not of action. Lien is a right of defense but not of an action. Next is right to retain the goods and not to use the goods. Lien is a right to retain the goods and not to use that goods. Then lien is a personal right of a person conferred either by contract or by law. It cannot be transferred to anybody else. So these are the essential features of a valid lien. Now we can discuss what are the types of lien. Under the Indian Contract Act, lien may be two types. They are particular lien and general lien. So the first one is particular lien. Particular lien is a kind of lien, and this lien provides a right to retain particular goods until claims arising on those goods are satisfied. Second one is general lien. This is a right to retain all the goods or any property which is in the possession of the bailee until all the claims of the holders are satisfied. It is a right to retain the goods of another as a security for a general balance account. So, these are all about general lien and particular lien. Now, we can discuss what are the differences between general lien and particular lien. A general lien is the right of a person to retain the possession of the goods belonging to another person. Particular lien is the right of the person to keep possession of specific goods or security until the charges related to those goods are cleared. So, this is the first difference. Now, the next difference is general lien can be exercised for any goods, whereas particular lien is available only against the goods with respect to which services are rendered. Only those goods which provide services must exercise particular lien, but general lien can be exercised for every goods. Section 171 of the Indian Contract Act deals with the general lien. Section 170 of the Indian Contract Act deals with the particular lien. General lien is not automatic but is recognized through an agreement. Particular lien is an automatic. In case of general lien, bailee has no right to sell the goods to discharge the outstanding amount. Bailee has no right to discharge the goods or sell the goods. In case of particular lien, bailee has no right to sell the goods to recover the debt, but in special condition the right is conferred. General lien is available to bankers, wharfingers, factors, high court attorneys, etc. Whereas particular lien is employed by a bailee, unpaid seller, finder of goods, pledge, agent. So, these are all about differences between general lien and particular lien. And now, the next topic is termination of bailment. A contract of bailment terminated or cancelled under certain circumstances. So, the cases are, first case is on the expiry of the period. If the bailment is for a particular period, the bailment terminated as soon as the stipulated period is expired. It is explained under section 160. Now, the next case is accomplishment of purpose. If accomplishment of purpose or achievement of the object. If bailment is for a specific purpose, the bailment terminated as soon as the purpose is fulfilled. Third case is inconsistent use of goods. If the bailee does any act with regard to the goods bailed which is inconsistent with the terms of the bailment terminated. Now, the next is destruction of the subject matter. A bailment is terminated when the subject matter of the bailment is destroyed or by reason of the change in its nature become incapable of use for the purpose of the bailment. Once again, destruction of the subject matter also leads to the termination of the bailment. Then next one is gratuitous bailment. At any time as per wishes of the bailer, gratuitous bailment is terminated. Now, next is death of the bailer or bailee. A gratuitous bailment terminated upon the death of either the bailer or the bailee. So, these are the cases where contract of bailment is terminated. Now, the next topic is finder of lost goods. A finder of lost good is a person who find goods belonging to another and take them into their custody. So, it is sometimes just like a bailment. That is why we studied this concept here. According to section 71 of the Contract Act, a finder of good is a person who find the goods belonging to some other person and take them in his possession. Once a person take his possession the goods which is found, he become bailee of that goods and he has same responsibility as a bailee. So, now we can discuss what are the duties of the finder of goods. So, the first duty of a finder of goods is to find the true owner of the goods. He has the duty to find the real owner of the goods. Now, the next duty is to inform the police. the finder of goods must inform the police regarding the goods which he is received. Then next is to return the goods to the owner after he is found. When he find the real owner of the goods, then he has the duty to give back to that goods to the real owner. Then he take proper care of goods. Then not to mix the goods found with his own goods, not to treat and use goods as own property. He has no right to use that property. So these are all about duty of the finder of the goods. Now we can discuss the rights of the finder of goods. A finder of goods enjoys so many rights. So the rights of a finder of goods is right to possession, right to compensation, but no right to sue for compensation, right to lien, right to sue for reward, right to sell the goods. So a finder of good has the right to take the possession of that goods, and he has the right to get the compensation, but he has no right to sue for the compensation. Then right of lien, right to sue for reward, right to sell the goods. So these are all about rights of finder of goods. Okay, now we can discuss some questions which is related with this area. So the questions are, what are the requisites of a bailment? What are the different kinds of bailment? What are the duties of a bailer? What are the duties of a bailee? What are the rights of a bailer? What are the rights of a bailee? What is lien? Explain bailee's lien. Distinguish between particular lien and general lien. When will a bailment terminate? Who is a finder of goods? What are his rights and duties? So students, today we discussed the concept contract of bailment. Apart from that, we also discussed the concept lien and finder of goods. So I think all you get an idea regarding all these concepts. Now I am going to wind up today's discussion. We can meet in our next video class. Till then, bye. Take care.